Hi everyone, can you hear me?
Yes.
A very good morning and good evening. Firstly, welcome to the batch, guys. You know, so this is all about data engineering, Azure data engineering. Um, so just a couple of quick questions before we get into today's topics. How many of you have attended my demo? You can use the chat window. I see one, two, three, four, five. Okay, 5 out of 10. That's fine. Okay.
ఇంత అంత ఫస్ట్ డే క్లాసెస్ అంత కాంప్లికేటెడ్ ఉండక జస్ట్ ఇన్స్టా
Okay, so let's get started, guys. Okay. Um, first things first, today is about, introduction and, I'll be taking you into the journey of data engineering course, right? And then I'll spend last few minutes to address your questions if you have any. Okay, so these first three sessions today, tomorrow, and day after tomorrow will be kind of setting up the context, what you're going to learn, why this is needed, and then some backdrop. Like one of our participant is rightly mentioning, first three sessions or first few sessions will not be as complex as the actual topics. Okay, so without any further delay, let me introduce myself. My name is Suresh. I have been working as a data engineer from past 12 and a half years, guys. Okay. So data engineer is a term which got recently introduced. When I say recently, it's not 1 year, 2 year, but I think it was back in 2018 or 2017. Okay. So I started my career back in 2012 as a Hadoop developer. So we were basically using this Hadoop framework for developing distributed computing solutions. Okay, so back then we were using MapReduce and then Hive predominantly for developing data pipelines. And then I moved to Spark from MapReduce, and we used to run this MapReduce or Spark on top of on-premise systems. And this data engineer term was started after cloud have gained prominence, guys. Okay. So, from 2017, my role got changed into data engineer, and I have got a chance to work on multiple clouds, predominantly on Azure and GCP, but I do have some exposure to AWS too. Okay. So during this time, I have got a chance to work on multiple domains, especially on financial domains, banking sector, and asset management. And I have good working exposure with supply chain management too. And, digital marketing. That was when I was working for Google as a contractor. So this is a small introduction about me. Now, if I would let you introduce yourself. You don't have to unmute and talk, but I just want to know a little background about you. So all you can do is ping me your introduction in this format in the chat window. Name, your experience, and your current technology which you are working on. So for example, in my case, it's Suresh, experience is 12, and then technology. Currently, I'm working as a data engineer. Okay, something like this. So for example, if you are a fresher, you can just ping Suresh and then fresher. Okay, please use the chat window, guys. We'll take 5 minutes for introducing yourself. Hi, Pradeep. Hi, Sandhya. Started as a data consultant. Great. Ratna, you didn't mention your experience and technology. Data migration engineer. Vinay, I remember you. A fresher from 10 years. Storage under IT infra. Okay. Don't have knowledge on SQL and Python. Teja, 1 year experience, Informatica developer. Hi, Teja. I would recommend everyone to introduce yourself, guys. That would set some background about you. Lakshmi, 1 year experience, mainframe. Hi, Lakshmi. Ankita, currently working in bank, non-IT. Okay. Hi, Ankita. Hi, Parshuram, 8 years data engineer. Parshuram, you have mentioned data engineer. So, what services you are using and what are your expectations? Or did we already talked about it during the demo? I couldn't recollect. This is your first session, okay? You have worked primarily on AWS, okay? Data integration, okay. No problem. So let's get started, guys. So you might be coming from different backgrounds and then you might have different questions. Firstly, let me try to make you comfortable. Okay. So today's session is all about making you understand what you are exactly going to learn for next couple of months. Our journey just started. Okay, and I'm gonna show you a way how our journey would look ahead. Okay, so this is Azure Data Engineering course. Okay, I'm not sure how many of you are comfortable with this term called data engineering. Okay, so basically, what exactly data engineering is, what a data engineer do, right? So, we are gonna learn that throughout the course, but let me give you a, snapshot. Basically, talking about data engineering, right, or data engineer, he is primarily responsible for, managing data in a usable, in a usable format, I would say. Okay, so what do I mean by that? Say, for example, uh, my data scientist want to run some predictive analytics. He cannot just run on the data as is. Okay, or maybe one of my business function, wants to see a report on how the sales and marketing have performed in the last quarter. The same thing, they cannot directly come and build reports on top of data that is sitting at different places, right? So this data engineer is the guy who does a lot of things. Okay, so he's the guy who addresses all the data problems and make sure the data is available in a consumable format for be it data scientist or a data analyst for building their reports. Okay, so generally talking about this data engineer, right? He gets to deal with different types of data. For a data scientist, it doesn't really matter. For a data analyst, it doesn't really matter. Okay, but for a data engineer, he deals with different types of data. So, for example, based on how it is structured, we have a categorization: structured versus unstructured. Okay. And then based on the timelines of the data or relevancy of the data, you have again, transactional and historic data. Okay. And this is something which we refer to as OLTP versus OLAP. OLTP, online transaction processing, and OLAP, online analytical processing. Okay. And then based on how you are running your process, or how you are building your pipelines, or how you are processing your data, it can be categorized into two types. Again, batch processing versus real-time processing. Okay. So you will end up dealing with a lot of these kind of things, guys. Okay. And make sure the data is available all the time in a consumable format for your stakeholders. Okay, and not just this, you will come across a lot of data problems. So generally, you talk about a warehouse, then you kind of build a dimensional model so that it can be readily consumable. Okay, and then um, these are some commonly done tasks by data engineer: data modeling, and then you take care about data ingestion. Okay, so talking about data ingestion, right? Data ingestion is nothing but a process of getting your data from your source to the platform where you are processing. Say, for example, my data can be sitting at multiple places. Okay, maybe some of my data is there in SQL Server, on-premise SQL Server, and some of my data, let's say, it's there in Oracle Exact Target, which is a warehouse, and then some of the data which I am purchasing or procuring from a third party organization is present in SFTP server. Okay, so data is sitting at multiple places. These are all my sources. Okay, now to process them in one place, I'll have to bring that data as is to the cloud first. In our case, it's Azure. Okay, we call it as Azure storage. Azure storage will have to bring all this data to Azure storage, and this part is what we call as data ingestion. So basically, you are ingesting data from your source systems to the cloud. Okay, so this is the first step any data engineer would do. Okay, so and apart from this, there are commonly when it comes to data ingestion, you have multiple types. One is batch ingestion, and the second one is CDC. CDC stands for change data capture. Okay. When we talk about CDC, it's a kind of real-time ingestion. Say, for example, I have a SQL Server source, and then I'm ingesting data from SQL Server to Azure storage. Maybe I'm just imagine I'm just copying data from SQL Server to um, maybe blob storage, ADLS Gen 2. Okay. So you can assume for now ADLS Gen 2 as your hard disk, and you're just copying your data. Okay. Now, talking about CDC, right? Since your SQL Server is a OLTP system, you know, the changes would continuously happen. When I talk about changes, it could be a new record insertion or existing record updation, or deleting an existing record based on the actions performed by the users. You can probably take Amazon portal where you do a lot of shopping, and let's talk about your data. Okay, so generally, you will have options to update your data, right? Maybe you can update your email ID, or maybe you can update your addresses, maybe you can update your payment methods, right? Or maybe you can update your orders. Maybe you have ordered something, you want to change an address, you can go ahead and do it, right? So all these are typical examples for update operations. which would also reflect in the database systems. And when these updates happened in the source, let's assume which is SQL Server, we will have to, migrate them to our destination as well, which is the cloud storage, so that, the downstream processes won't get impacted and they consume the latest data. Okay, and this process is what we call as CDC. I'm going to show you a couple of examples on CDC though, change data capture. Okay, so this is one of the standard use cases when it comes to data engineering. And then we have some standard solutions like building a data lake or, metadata management projects, right? So all these things are some standard set of data engineering problems which you see on your uh, day-to-day job once you get into get into a data engineering role. Okay. Now, in order to do all these things, in order to handle different types of data, in order to build these solutions, we are leveraging cloud. And in our case, the cloud is Azure. Okay. And Azure have tons of services, guys. Okay, so Azure is not just meant for data engineering, right? So Azure have some compute services and some services for DevOps, some services for machine learning, some services for something else, right? But our area of interest would be the services related to data engineering. Like I was mentioning, the first and foremost service would be storage. Okay. And you can categorize them into two types, storage and compute. Okay. So compute is nothing but the services which would help you to process your data. Okay. And the storage would help you to store your data. And for storage, we have something called as ADLS Gen 2. We are going to use this ADLS Gen 2, Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2. Okay. And compute, in our course, we are going to learn Databricks to start with. And then I'm going to show you Data Factory. And we are going to end with Synapse Analytics. Okay. And in addition to this, we also have some helper services, right? Helper services like Key Vault. So I'm going to talk about this Key Vault as well. So, since most of you have some experience into developing real-time applications, might not be related to data engineering, even though you are a fresher, you can try to relate it, right? Basically, whenever we are dealing with whenever we are building real-time solutions, there would be times where we'll have to use some sensitive information like passwords or secrets or certificates sometime. Okay. So these are some sensitive information which would help you to authenticate with the services you are trying to interact with. Say, for example, we have databases. Maybe I'm using a JDBC connection to get data from my on-premise database to Azure storage. So when I talk about this JDBC connection, I would definitely need to give my password, my user ID and then password. Okay. So in my code, I cannot flash my password. So for example, I'm doing a code review. If somebody flashes their password in the code, I would straight away reject the code. I'll not let him push that into Git. Okay. So that's how it is, right? So we use something called as Vault, where we generally store our password and we use a key for that password. Okay, instead of directly using our password, we'll use something called as key for our password. Okay. Now, these are services which we are going to deal with in, next couple of months of our journey. And, uh, you know, I'll be using Azure. I mean, in my case, I'm going to use the Azure paid subscription, pay as you go subscription. But in your case, I would help you how you can create an Azure account for free of cost Azure subscription. Okay. But all I need is an email ID, new email ID, which you haven't used for Microsoft registration earlier, and a new credit card, which you haven't used for Azure subscription earlier. Okay. Now, What I'm not going to cover in this course. Say, for example, you want to become a data engineer and there are multiple other services too. So what am I not covering as a part of this course? Cosmos DB. Okay. And I'm not going to cover Event Hub and streaming analytics. Okay. So these are the few things which I'm not going to cover in this course. Meaning, the real-time streaming solutions are not going to be part of our course, but I'm going to theoretically explain you how real-time streaming works. Okay. So these are the services which I'm not going to cover. And these are the ones which I'm going to cover. And,
I have a question. Sorry
yeah.
to interrupt you. So
Yeah.
just wondering, like, I know that there are some services that we use when we're using any cloud platforms like Azure or AWS, right?
Mhm.
Like PySpark or any other third-party services. So are we going to touch base on anything of this kind of third-party services?
Firstly, PySpark is not a third-party service. PySpark is a framework which we use to develop data engineering applications. And one such service is Databricks. Okay, so I still don't want to call Databricks as a third-party service because it's tightly integrated in all the clouds. Okay, but technically it's a third party because it's not by Microsoft or it's not by Amazon or Google. It's a third party service, Databricks, and it is tightly integrated. And in Azure, apart from Databricks, you won't see much of a third party services involved, guys, unlike Google's GCP. Okay. And answer is yes, I'll be covering Databricks.
Okay, so which includes PySpark as well, right?
Yes, I'm gonna cover
Okay,
PySpark as well.
okay. Just checking on that. Thank you so much.
Yeah. I mean, modern data engineering is nothing without PySpark. Okay. Now, uh, again talking about this cloud data engineering and other things. And don't worry if you are not able to understand a few terminology I'm using, which is totally fine because I'm gonna start right from the basics. Okay, so whatever you are seeing on my screen, I'm gonna reiterate and we are gonna deep dive. Say for example, you don't understand what is transactional and historic data, you don't have to worry about it. We'll be deep diving into it. Okay, I'm going to assume every one of you are laymen when it comes to data and data engineering terms. Okay, and I'm going to cover everything in basics. Okay, now here we have two roles again, data engineering and then data admin. Okay, so data admin is a old term, but these days people are using some fancy term called platform engineer. Okay, so I want you to understand one more difference, guys. Talking about this platform engineer, right? He is the one who would be responsible for managing all these services. Okay. So though these services are provided by Microsoft, there should be someone who should be managing these from our organization and as well, right? You cannot just go and use services like you want. Okay, so though these services are cloud-based and it has a lot of capabilities, someone has to maintain them, making sure that they are compliant with your organization standards. Say, for example, you're working for a banking client, you'll have to make sure that your services are secured. So you can't just deploy it in a cloud, public cloud model. Okay, so it has to be a private cloud, and you'll have to make sure only the users who are intended to have the access should have it. Okay, so even though I'm from the same organization, you're from the same organization, we are working in two different projects. I'm not supposed to have access to your data, and you're not supposed to have access to my data, right? So all the access control, all the service instantiation and the service maintenance, making sure that your services, what are the services you have deployed or compliant with your organization standards, all these things would be carried out by this platform engineer. Okay. So what am I going to do as a data engineer? I'm gonna use the services that are created by this guy, platform engineer, and will build my end-to-end data solutions and will build my end-to-end data solutions using these things. But in our course, we don't have a platform engineer. So we will be doing some administrative actions as well. So you will get some hands-on with administrative aspects of it, of all the services we are going to learn. Might not be in a full-fledged fashion, but you will get the basic understanding, basic to intermediate understanding on how you are gonna provision your services, because you'll have to do it yourself in our course. Okay. But I'm gonna clearly distinguish between what are the platform engineer actions and what are the data engineer actions, so that you can take things seriously that are related to a data engineer. Okay, so this is something which I want to give you a heads up. And during my demo, I have mentioned the prerequisites are Python and then SQL. SQL I'm gonna cover in my course, but Python I'm not gonna cover in my course. Okay, so if somebody is new to Python, somebody haven't touched any programming language in their previous experience, I would highly recommend you to, start learning basic Python at least. Okay, it would take at least couple of weeks for us to get into PySpark. Okay, starting today. So 2 weeks is more than enough to brush up yourself on Python basics. Okay, but SQL, yes, I'm gonna cover SQL. So Python, people are bringing in Python only after PySpark, but you know, if you ask me what is the exact prerequisite for learning data engineering, I would say SQL, because using SQL, you try to understand how to wrangle your data, what operations to do, be it filter operation or a join operation or a union operation or an aggregate operation. At the end of the day, you do the same operations using PySpark too. Okay. So how you do it is different. First, you'll have to understand what to do. Okay. So when you understand what to do, you can use Python and PySpark to, you know, uh, to figure out how to do it. Okay. And I'm gonna show you how Python would be helpful too. I'm gonna take couple of examples, where I'm gonna show you two approaches. One approach is a layman approach, people who doesn't know Python, how they do it, versus I'm gonna show you a automated approach on how people who are comfortable with Python can get their things done. Okay. So Python and SQL are the prerequisites. And another heads up I want to give you is about your operating system. If you are Windows, you're good. If you are using Mac, you are 95% good for this course. Okay. So let me explain the reason. Because in Azure Data Factory, I'm gonna show you something called as SHR. This is the full form of this is self-hosted integration runtime. Okay, so basically we use this self-hosted integration runtime to move data from on-premise to cloud. Okay, when I say on-premise, it could be your on-premise file system or it could be your on-premise database. Okay, so during Azure Data Factory, I'm gonna demo how to use self-hosted integration runtime to pull data from your on-premise database to cloud storage. Okay, so SHIR currently supports Windows, and I have never seen any website or any blog, including Microsoft documentation, talking about SHIR support for Mac. Okay, but some of my students from my previous batches, they have used Azure VM, Windows VM, even though their system is Mac, and they have created this SHIR connection from that Azure VM. Okay, so that's one alternate which you can use. Okay. But if you are using Windows, you don't have to worry about anything. Okay. So now how our course is structured, I just mentioned, the services. So basically our course will start with introduction to data. This is where you'll get to understand all the data basics, like what exactly data is, and the different types I was mentioning about all those things you'll try to understand. And the next topic will be introduction to cloud. So here I'm going to introduce what exactly cloud computing is, different types of cloud deployment models like public cloud, private cloud, and then we have something else called as hybrid cloud, right? And then I'm going to talk about different services of cloud, like what is PaaS, what is IaaS, infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and then software as a service, SaaS, sorry. And then I'll be talking about the newly coined term called serverless. Okay. So, all those basics you will learn during this cloud. And then I'll be moving into ADLS Gen 2, which is our blob storage and the storage we are going to use. Okay. So here you'll get to learn about, what exactly blob storage is. Even before blob storage, we'll try to understand different types of storages that are supported by Azure, like table storage, queue storage, file storage, and then blob storage. Okay, and we'll try to understand a high level difference because we'll not be dealing with other three types, but we'll be focusing on the blob storage. We'll try to understand what exactly containers are, how do you create directories and subdirectories, and how do you upload files, right? And then we have something called as access tier, hot tier, cold tier, cool tier, and then archive tier, and then we have something called as lifecycle management policies, data retention policies, and there are few security settings I'll be walking you through during this ADLS Gen 2. Okay, once we are done with this, then we are going to start the star of our course, which is Databricks. Okay, so this is the most important topic. If you don't have to trust me. You can just get into any job portal from wherever you're joining from, be it India, Canada, or Australia. You can just open your respective job portals and search for Azure Data Engineering, and I'm pretty sure you'll see Databricks. At least in 90%, at least in 90% of the data engineering roles, Azure data engineering roles, you'll see Databricks. Okay. So here I'm going to start with Spark SQL. This is where I'm going to teach you SQL. Okay. And then I'm going to teach you PySpark. And then I'm going to start the Databricks features. Okay, so what additionally Databricks has to offer in addition to Spark. So this is where I'll be talking about Unity Catalog. This is where I'm going to talk about volumes, Databricks workflows, Databricks widgets, Databricks jobs. Okay, and then I'm going to show you Delta, how you track the lineage, how you do time traveling. There are a lot of features that Databricks has to offer, and I'm going to show you all those features. Okay, so I will be spending at least a month on this one topic alone. On this one topic alone. So Databricks will be deep diving like anything, guys. Okay, but there will still be few topics which I might not be able to, which I'm not gonna cover. Okay, but I'll give you the list of topics which you can take it offline after my course. Okay, so once we are done with this, then we will be starting Azure Data Factory. Okay, so by now you would be very comfortable with the data engineering problems, the common data engineering problems we get, and different types of solutions we build, and different types of operations we do. Okay, so here we are not going to learn anything new in terms of that, but we will use a different service for doing the similar operations. Okay, now we call it as data factory. So one new operation you'll be learning here is data ingestion. Okay, because I'm going to show you how you can ingest your data from your source system to Azure storage during data factory. Okay, and here you'll get to learn about uh, the high level architecture, like what are the activities, what are triggers, what are integration runtimes, what are pipelines, and then what type of activities we have, like copy activity, for each activity, until activity, stop activity, right? There are a lot of things, data flow activity, and I'm going to walk you through all of them, and we will build around some 10 pipelines before completing this Azure Data Factory. And you'll get to understand triggers, different types of triggers, schedule triggers, event-based triggers, everything would be covered. Okay. And once we are done with this, I'm gonna start Azure Synapse Analytics. Okay, so Synapse Analytics have two types of pools, guys. Again, talking about the architecture, right? One is Spark pool, and the second one is SQL pool. Okay, and again in SQL pool, you have two different types. Okay, one is dedicated SQL pool, and the second one is serverless SQL pool. Okay, so Synapse Analytics, by the time we get into Synapse Analytics, right, you would have already learned 70% of what Synapse Analytics has to offer. Okay, because when we talk about Spark pool, you have already learned PySpark, Spark SQL, and how to use a notebook, etc. So what I'm going to show you is the difference between how you can build the same using Synapse versus Databricks. Okay, and now talking about SQL pool, now you already know SQL. Okay, now I'm going to show you how to create this dedicated versus serverless, right? And then what exactly is the difference, when to go with serverless, when to go with dedicated. Okay, and then we'll talk about difference in terms of architecture, and then I'm going to show you how to create external tables versus managed tables, right? And different operations there. We will hardly spend 3 to 4 hours on Synapse Analytics, which you would feel would be more than enough, because I mean, that's the beauty of data engineering, guys, because for us to understand the operations and the common problems is more important than learning these services. That's the reason, one service, one cloud, it's going to be really, really easy for you to scale up on other clouds too. Say, for example, I started my cloud journey with Azure, but I have comfortably scaled up on GCP and AWS as well. Because at the end of the day, knowing what a data engineer does and what data operations we do on a daily basis is what is important than a service. Okay. Like I was mentioning, Data Factory, Databricks, you can learn Synapse. All of them, you can learn Cosmos by yourself. Okay. So that's the reason we don't expect, uh, while interviewing, that somebody who is getting into this role should know A to Z. Okay. But we do definitely expect them to have the data engineering background, the data problems. We expect them to uh, uh, solve those data problems. Okay. So this is a little introduction about our course, and Azure Key Vault will be using throughout. Okay. The moment we start this Databricks, we'll start using Key Vault. Okay, because for accessing your storage account, you'll have to provide an authentication, right? And that authentication is provided by something called as access key. And I'm gonna show you how to use Key Vault to store that access key, which is a sensitive information, and pull your data. Likewise, I'm gonna show you how you can use the Key Vault for while using Data Factory as well. Okay. So this is about our course and what you are going to learn for next couple of months. Now, I would leave the floor for your questions, guys. You can unmute yourself if you want to ask any questions, or you can use the chat window. Please feel comfortable.
So I have a question. My name is Prem.
Yeah, Prem.
So, yeah. So wondering, like after the class, let's say as part of the exercise, if we are learning something and have a roadblock,
Mhm.
uh, how can we get back to you? Is it can we reach offline with you, or what is the ideal way to touch base with you?
So basically, it's a very good question. You know, I'm not supposed to share my contact, or I'm not supposed to connect with you offline. Everything will happen through Career IT. So let's say you are practicing something which I have given you as an assignment, or maybe you're practicing something which is already taught in the class, and you have got into some issue. The first and best way is to ask during the session, the next day session. Okay. And if that is not possible for you, or maybe you have uh, I mean, you have got into a trouble with a topic which was taught a long back, in those scenarios, the ideal way is to schedule a doubt clarification session with me. And also I do those sessions every alternate week, depending on the requirement, depending on the requests I get from Career IT. I would use weekends to connect with you offline, not offline, in the same call, and solve your address your queries if you have any.
Sounds good. Thank you.
I have a couple of questions pinged in the chat. Please utilize this time, guys. And trust me, once we started our course from tomorrow, we don't get time to interact. So ask any questions you have, and you don't have to ping it to everyone. If you are shy to ask any questions, you can message me directly, which I'll read without mentioning the name. Uh, One-on-one, you can probably ping me in the chat window one-on-one. Okay, I'm not sure the feasibility today and tomorrow to connect one-on-one. Or if you are okay to wait till weekend, I'm good with that. Rama just wanted to know till what extent need to know SQL in terms of interviews as well as on job. It all depends on your interviewer, Rama, and also for the role you are applying. Okay. So for example, if you have applied for an architect role, and if I am interviewing you, I don't even ask you any SQL questions. I would straight away get into, the you know solutioning of different data engineering problems which we face on a daily basis. Okay, so for example, you are applying for a senior data engineer role. We will definitely test you with complex SQL scenarios. If you are a mid-level engineer or a junior data engineer, entry level, then it might not be more complex. And when I talk about the complexity, right, complexity would be in terms of the problem statement. It will not be in terms of the transformations you do. Even for a basic SQL query or a complex SQL query, the operations we use is pretty same. Okay, but building that solution is what makes it interesting. I hope I have answered your question, Rama. So even though it is a complex statement, it's going to be like, will you end up using joins, unions, cross joins, whatnot? But you'll have to understand how what transformation to use to get to that solution. Yeah. Hands-on lab or practical exercises. This is a very interesting question for uh, people who are coming from a non-technical background too. Okay, so hands-on, don't expect any hands-on during the course for sure. Okay, so generally what I do is I would teach the topic, and nobody remembers theory, and I'm not here to teach you theory. I'm gonna show you a kind of real-time scenario for that concept, and I'm gonna show you the code, walk you through the code. Okay, and I expect you to practice that offline. And if you ever get into an issue while practicing, you can reach out to me. Just like Prem have asked earlier, we'll follow the same procedure. And whatever the important topics that we have, I'm gonna give you assignments, and you will practice those assignments too. Generally, assignments, I'll not give assignments for every single topic. So once we have covered maybe few set of topics, and I'll give you one single assignment covering all those topics. Okay, again, that you will be doing offline. And if you are getting to an issue, you will follow the same approach to connect with me and get your issues resolved. Okay, so if you want to call my course non-hands-on, I'll be more than happy to accept it and admit it. But you'll not be doing hands-on during the course. But all my theories will have real-time examples. I'm not just gonna talk about theory. Okay. I hope I answered your question, Teja.
So we'll be getting any sample data like to work on like
Yes.
practice. Okay.
Yes. Okay. So we'll be working on retail data sets. One of the
Okay.
standard data sets which we generally use. You will get
Okay.
data sets, you will get Databricks notebooks, you will get a lot of things.
Okay.
Say, for example, uh, I'm not sure whether this is active or not. Yeah, looks like this is active. I haven't deactivated this yet. This is something which I have created for my previous batch. Okay. And if I go to my workspace, and then these are all the notebooks I have taught to that particular batch. You go to SQL, these are the SQL notebooks. Okay. So these are all the notebooks that I have created for PySpark. And all these notebooks would be shared and you will have data sets. Okay. So nothing will be just theory. Okay. So likewise, this is a Databricks, sorry, Data Factory, and these are all the pipelines which I have created. Okay. So nothing will be just theory. Yes, Rama. I will be covering Unity Catalog and Delta Lake. They are the most important things right now. I don't know Python and SQL. As I mentioned, I don't have any coding experience and IT background. Can I fit for this course? Okay. So this is another interesting question, which I usually get in every batch, the first session of every batch. Okay. So can I fit into this course? Again, here you'll have to do the self-assessment. Okay. So I have seen people who are coming from zero background and excelling in this course. You know, few people ended up getting a job as well. Okay. Uh, Ankita, sorry to cut you short. Actually, you are not allowed to do that. Again, it's not from me, but from the Career IT. The policy of Career IT doesn't allow you to exchange your numbers.
With the other students also?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So
Okay.
we just
Yeah.
have to keep communication with like you or the or
Career IT
somebody.
folks.
Okay.
Okay, you can check with them probably if they have any alternate for you. But ideally, um, I'm not sure about different reasons, but they are against the communities.
Okay.
Okay, so yeah, talking about prerequisites, right? I have seen people without this knowledge excelling in this course, but definitely the effort you'll have to put in would be more than the people who are already having some ETL background. Okay, so not just you, but there are people coming from other backgrounds. You know, it doesn't matter whether you are from IT or non-IT, but you know, people coming from testing background. Again, when I talk about testing, I'm referring to manual testing or people coming in from some other backgrounds. Even they will not have any uh, background of SQL or Python. Okay, and even freshers, there are a lot of freshers. They also they might have some theoretical exposure, but even they don't have the real-time exposure to programming language or SQL. Okay, so like I was mentioning, right, you guys will have to put the additional efforts. Okay, and another important thing which I want to highlight, you know, uh, the moment you start feeling shy about asking questions, you know, you are no longer a learner. Okay. And that I can definitely tell you, you will be unfit for this course. Okay. So it's as simple as this, right? If you don't want to ask questions in the session, if you don't want to get your doubts clarified, there is no point in joining a live session. You can just go spend, less than 5% of what you are spending for this course and take a Udemy course. There are hundreds of Udemy courses available. Okay, so just to listen to a recording or a recorded session. So I'll try my level best to make you guys interactive, but it's, both the sides. It's mutual, right? So I want you to be as interactive as possible, ask as many questions as possible. I'm not assuring that I'll be able to answer 100% of your questions, but I will be definitely able to answer more than 90%. And the rest 10%, if I'm not able to answer, I'll get back to you with an answer. Okay. But it's always a good practice to make yourself comfortable. You make sure when you are leaving the session that you are good with all the topics that are covered. Okay. That will assure you a job for sure. If you are leaving every session thinking that, yes, I have understood all the topics that are covered today, then you are fit. That's the simple definition I would give. And if you are leaving the session without that feeling, then you'll have to reassess. Teja, like I was mentioning, right? You can expect all these things. Certifications generally, there is only one certification, which is DP203, data engineering. Okay, I'm not going to deep dive into this. I'll be getting back to this certification thing during our last session. Okay, but the certification is DP203, the code. So Microsoft Certified Azure Data Engineer Associate. Okay. Will recorded classes be provided? Oh, I have one more question. Do you help if needed for certification? What can I help here? I can give you a dumps link. You can just register, practice those dumps before going to the exam and you'll clear it. Okay. So will recorded classes be provided if under circumstances I fail to attend a class? Yes. Recordings would be provided. Recordings would be uploaded right after every session. Okay. So I will wait maximum 5 minutes to start the session. I respect the time of the folks who have joined on time, and I'll be starting the session. Okay. So if you missed first 5, 10, 15 minutes, it's okay. You can still continue to listen to the session. Okay. And the recordings would be uploaded. You can go through the recording for the missed part. Right. And you will see a delay in uploading the artifacts I'm showing, like Databricks notebooks or the SQL code or whatever it is, right? you know they will be uploaded only after completing a service. There is a reason. I don't want you to just copy and paste it. I want you to type. Okay, so that is where you'll get comfortable. Rama, today and tomorrow I'm little busy. I have some C-level meetings at office. I'll have to leave right after this session, unfortunately, but we can connect over the weekend. Ankita, same applies to you. You can probably ask them to schedule one-on-one session, probably on Sunday. Like I have mentioned, SQL I'm gonna cover for sure, and Python I'm not gonna cover. Python is something which you'll have to learn, and like I have mentioned, it can go parallel. Okay, and in 2 months course, I'm gonna use PySpark only for 6 to 7 days maximum. So another question, can I know how long each class is and on what days? So right now it is in IST. Okay. Monday to Friday, 7:30, sorry, 6:30 to 7:30 a.m. IST. Okay. I have also proposed one more alternate. I'm yet to get the approval though, but you will be notified if there are any changes, where I'll be connecting only from Monday to Thursday, but it's going to be 6:30 to 7:45. I'm just proposing because based on the feedback I have received from previous sessions, right? So if somebody have missed a day, they'll have one additional day for practicing. So for example, Monday to Thursday, 4 days, 6:30 to 7:45. This is again 5 hours, which is equivalent to Monday to Friday, 1 hour approach. I'm just adding that 15-minute for 4 days so that, you guys will get one additional day for practicing. Okay. So this is not yet finalized though. It's just a proposal I have put to Career folks. I'm yet to get the approval. Okay. But for now, you can assume this is what it is. So which one do you prefer? One or two? Monday to Friday or Monday to Thursday? 1 hour session, 1 hour, 15-minute session.
Um, I would prefer Monday to Friday and one of the days dedicated for doubts clarification.
That is not possible, buddy. Honestly. Okay,
Yeah,
so
so
we
that
can,
is,
and let me tell you what, right now you will have some apprehensions about doubts, but trust me, uh, even though I conduct doubts clarification on a weekly basis, right, you will not have enough doubts to keep me engaged for an hour.
mm,
Okay, so you'll understand why, probably once we get into the course, right, you'll understand why I have made this statement. I'm into training from almost 8 years now. Okay, so trust me, if I do it every week, you cannot engage me. Okay, maybe in the first week, second week, you'll ask a lot of questions on projects, that, this, right? And from the third week, everybody would be on mute. Okay, so once in 2 weeks is a good frequency. Okay,
uh, okay.
so best part of this Monday to Thursday approach, we can utilize Fridays for that doubts clarification, once in 2 weeks, so that we don't have to touch the Saturday and Sunday. Okay. Cool. So most of you were in favor of Monday to Thursday, but let's see how it goes. Like I said, my call is not final. I'll have to get approval from Career IT folks too. Okay, cool. Thank you all. I hope you got some good understanding on what you're going to learn, and our actual course starts from tomorrow. We are going to start with Introduction to Data. Okay, so don't miss first 2 sessions if you are a fresher, or if you are completely new into this data engineering. Tomorrow's session and after tomorrow's session, I'm gonna cover very basics. Okay, so please don't miss. Thank you all. Good day and happy learning. See you all tomorrow.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Thank you.